Hi, everyone. Today, we will meet a woman who gave birth at 16, dropped out of school to raise her baby, but later became a famous TV presenter and even the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. Sounds unbelievable. Well, this is the story of how she went from a teenage mom with no education to the head of a multi-million-dollar company. You won't believe it. So pay close attention. In today's episode, Deborah Norville was born on August 25, 1966 in Washington, D.C. Her mother, Joanne, was a well-known local news anchor, and her father worked for the CIA. Despite the fact that her parents had a solid financial situation, they divorced when Deborah was only 6 years old. She lived with her mother and two younger sisters after the divorce. And although her mother did everything possible to provide for them financially, she also had to work long hours. Therefore, little Deborah was mostly raised by her grandmother. Despite having a difficult childhood with divorced parents and having to spend much of her free time alone, Deborah grew up as a cheerful and sociable girl. She was a member of the cheerleading team, sang in the choir and was active in the drama club. But everything changed when Deborah turned 15. She met a boy named Mike at a party and they started dating. A few months later, she found out that she was pregnant. At first, the young people were very frightened and did not know what to do. But soon they decided to keep the baby. When Deborah's mother found out about her daughter's pregnancy, she was shocked. It wasn't that she didn't support her daughter, quite the contrary. But she knew very well that Deborah was too young to become a mother and she would need a lot of help. Nevertheless, she accepted the situation and stood up to help her daughter, convincing her that everything would be fine. Even so, the girl still had to face many difficulties. Her school friends started avoiding her and some even started bullying her. After graduating from high school, Deborah decided not to go to college and instead focus on raising her baby. After the baby was born, Deborah realized that being a mother was the most important thing in life for her and that she would do anything to protect and provide for her child. She was ready to sacrifice everything else for the sake of her son. And that's exactly what she did. She gave up her studies and her dreams, or so it seemed. In fact, this was just the beginning of her story. Deborah's mother helped her daughter and grandson as much as she could, but she herself needed to work. So she hired a nanny for Deborah and her son, which made it possible for Deborah to start working part-time while taking care of the baby. This is how she got her first job at a local bank. The young mother had to work hard to make ends meet. She worked 7 days a week and often had to work overtime. But she didn't mind because she liked her job and it helped her support her family. A few years later, Deborah's son went to school, which gave his mother the opportunity to get a full-time job. Moreover, thanks to the flexible work schedule, she was able to pick her son up from school every day. However, despite the fact that her career was developing successfully, Deborah missed something. She realized that working in a bank was not her calling. She wanted to do something more interesting. That's why she started looking for a new job. At that moment, one of Deborah's friends suggested that she apply for a position at a local TV channel. The friend thought that Deborah's charisma and communication skills would allow her to quickly climb the career ladder in this field. Although Deborah didn't know much about the specifics of working on television, she still decided to try her luck and sent out her resume. A few days later, she was invited to an interview, which she passed successfully. As a result, Deborah got a job as an assistant to the weather forecaster. Her salary was very small, but it didn't bother her at all because she really liked her job. For several years, Deborah worked hard and gained a reputation as a diligent employee who always completed tasks quickly and efficiently. So when one day the main news anchor got sick and no one could replace her, the management decided to give this chance to Deborah. She was very nervous, but she coped with the task perfectly. Viewers liked the new presenter and the management of the TV channel was very happy with her work. From that moment on, Deborah became the main news anchor on the local TV channel. Her career was developing rapidly and she earned a decent salary, which made it possible to provide for all the needs of her and her son. Moreover, Deborah was in no hurry to get married. She understood that such a serious step should not be taken solely out of the desire to formalize the relationship. She didn't want to make the same mistakes as her parents and be a bad example for her son. A few years later, she met a man named John. He was a lawyer and he immediately liked Deborah. They started dating and soon the couple realized that they couldn't imagine their lives without each other. When John proposed to her, Deborah agreed without hesitation. Their wedding was a beautiful and touching event that brought together the closest people in their lives. Over time, the couple decided to have another child. In 1995, Deborah gave birth to a beautiful baby girl whom they decided to name Kate. Family life was just perfect. Deborah had a wonderful husband, 2 beautiful children, and a successful career. What else could a woman wish for? However, despite the fact that Deborah had achieved great success, she never forgot about the difficulties she faced in her youth. She often shared her story with women who found themselves in a difficult situation, trying to convince them that everything would be fine if they had a plan and the desire to move forward. Moreover, she created a foundation to help single mothers and children left without parental care. And in 2003, Deborah's life changed again. She was offered the position of co-anchor on the Today Show. It was a great honor for a TV presenter and Deborah couldn't believe her luck. However, she had to refuse the offer because at that time she was expecting her 3rd child. When Deborah told the management of the TV channel about her pregnancy, she was immediately fired. This was a huge shock for her because she had been working on this TV channel for almost 20 years. But Deborah didn't have time to worry about it for a long time. Her daughter was born prematurely and had to stay in the hospital for some time under the supervision of doctors. The fight for the baby's health became the most important thing for Deborah at that moment. Fortunately, everything worked out well and the baby was discharged from the hospital. But soon Deborah learned that she had breast cancer. The disease was in the early stages, so treatment was quick and successful. But Deborah had to take a break from work and go through a lot of unpleasant tests. Nevertheless, the presenter was grateful for the support of her husband and friends during this difficult period. A year later, Deborah returned to work, but she didn't want to continue working on television. She felt she had other things to do. At that moment, Deborah decided to launch her own production company. Her first project was an interview with Oprah Winfrey, who told the story of a woman who gave birth to her 18th child. This particular interview was seen by millions of people around the world, and Deborah's career as a producer was a huge success. She produced documentaries and series, and each of her projects was better than the last. Over time, Deborah's company became one of the most successful in the industry, and she herself was included in the list of the most influential women in the world. Looking at Deborah's life story, we can conclude that there are no obstacles that could stop a person who has a goal and is ready to work hard to achieve it. Now, Deborah is happily married and raising her children. She managed to achieve great success in her career and at the same time be a good mother and wife. Her life story inspires many women around the world. Friends, tell us what you think about the life story of this woman. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and put likes. See you soon. Bye.